The Galactic Council chamber was silent. Delegates from 300 species sat in their designated seats, watching the holographic display at the center of the room. The display showed a star system burning. Ships fought each other in the darkness of space. Planets cracked open like eggs. Millions died every second. This was normal. This had been normal for 700,000 years. Ambassador Kelthrin of the Pavinar Union stood to speak. His blue skin looked gray under the artificial lights. He was tired. They were all tired. Honored members, he said. We gather again to discuss peace between the Zenthari Collective and the Krell Dominion. This is our 10,000th attempt. No one laughed. There was nothing funny about failure. The Zenthari representative floated in its containment sphere. It was made of pure energy, shifting between colors that had no names. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music and thunder at the same time. The Krell attacked our mining colonies. 17 billion Zenthari died. We responded with justice. The Krell Queen Mind spoke through its translator. The creature looked like a massive insect, but its mind connected to billions of smaller Krell across the galaxy. Its voice was cold and mechanical. Lies. The Zenthari entered our breeding grounds. They destroyed 3 hive worlds. 6 trillion Krell children died before they could think their first thoughts. We defended ourselves. Ambassador Kelthrin raised his hand. This is not about who started the current battle. This war has lasted 700,000 years. Neither of you remember how it truly began. We ask for peace. We beg for peace. The galaxy is dying. The Zenthari representative pulsed with angry red light. We will have peace when the Krell are dust. The Krell Queen Mind clicked its mandibles. We will have peace when the Zenthari are darkness. In the back of the chamber, the human delegation sat quietly. There were only 3 of them. Earth was new to galactic politics. Humans had only discovered faster-than-light travel 70 years ago. They had only joined the Galactic Council 20 years ago. The human ambassador was a woman named Sarah Chen. She was 52 years old. She had gray hair and tired eyes. She had been attending these peace talks for 5 years. She had seen nothing change. Next to her sat Admiral Marcus Webb, commander of Earth's Deep Space Fleet. He was a military man, but he hated war. He had fought in Earth's last major conflict 30 years ago. He thought humanity had learned its lesson. Then he came to the stars and found this. The third human was Dr. James Park, a xenopsychologist. He studied alien minds. He had spent 3 years analyzing the Zenthari-Krell War. His conclusion was simple. Both sides were trapped. They could not remember peace. They did not know how to stop fighting. On the holographic display, another star system died. The display showed the star going dark as millions of ships drained its energy to power their weapons. 3 inhabited planets froze instantly. 40 billion lives ended. Sarah Chen stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. In the huge chamber, the sound was very loud. Honored members, she said. Humanity withdraws from these negotiations. The chamber erupted in noise. Hundreds of species began talking at once. Ambassador Kelthrin looked shocked. Ambassador Chen, please reconsider. We need every voice for peace. Sarah Chen shook her head. This is not negotiation. This is theater. We perform the same show every month and nothing changes. Meanwhile, billions die. The Zenthari representative turned toward her. Humanity is young and ignorant. You have never fought a real war you do not understand. Admiral Webb stood next to Ambassador Chen. His face was hard. We understand that you have been killing each other for 700,000 years. We understand that you have dragged thousands of innocent species into your fight. We understand that you destroyed a research station last week. 50,000 civilians died. They were not Zenthari or Krell. They were just scientists studying a nebula. The Krell Queen Mind's translator made a dismissive sound. Casualties of war. They should have chosen a side. Dr. Park stood last. He was a small man who usually spoke quietly. But now his voice carried across the chamber. You are both sick, he said. This war is not about territory or resources or ideology anymore. It is an addiction. You fight because you have forgotten how to do anything else. Your civilizations are built on war. Your economies need war. Your leaders gain power through war. You cannot stop because stopping would mean admitting that 700,000 years of death meant nothing. The chamber was silent again. No one had ever spoken to the two empires this way. Sarah Chen picked up her data pad. Admiral Webb and Dr. Park followed her toward the exit. "Where does humanity go?" Ambassador Kelthrin asked. Sarah Chen stopped at the door. She looked back at the chamber, at the Zinthari and Krell representatives, at the holographic display showing the latest massacre, at 300 species who had given up hope. "We are going to end this war," she said. Then the human delegation walked out. 10 hours later, Sarah Chen sat in her quarters on the human embassy ship. She looked at a message from Earth Command. It was short. "Operation Stardestroyer is approved. You have full authority. End this war. Whatever it takes. Godspeed." Sarah closed her eyes. She thought about her daughter back on Earth. She thought about her grandson who had just been born. She thought about all the children in the galaxy who deserve to grow up in peace. She opened her eyes and pressed the communicator button. "Admiral Webb, Dr. Park. Come to my quarters. We have work to do." Outside the window, stars shined in the darkness. Soon one of those stars would shine brighter than all the others. Soon everything would change. The 700,000-year war was about to meet humanity. And humanity had brought something special to the galaxy. Humanity had brought hope. And hope, armed with the right tools, could move mountains, or in this case, end an eternal war. The USS Stardestroyer hung in space like a sleeping giant. It was massive. 5 kilometers long, 2 kilometers wide. It did not look like a normal warship. Its hull was black, but the black seemed to move. If someone watched closely, they could see patterns shifting across the surface like oil on water. This was humanity's secret. For 50 years, Earth's best scientists and engineers had worked on this ship. They had used technologies that the galaxy had forgotten. They had invented technologies that had never existed before. Admiral Marcus Webb stood on the bridge. The room was circular, with holographic displays floating everywhere. 500 crew members worked at their stations. These were Earth's finest. Every person had volunteered. Every person knew this might be a one-way trip. "Status report," Webb said. Captain Lisa Torres, his second in command, checked her display. "All systems operational. Quantum fold drives are ready. 0-point reactors are at full power. The nano hull is fully synchronized. Reality anchors are calibrated." Webb nodded. These words meant nothing to most galactic species. Humanity had developed these technologies in isolation, working from old theories and new discoveries. The quantum fold drives did not move the ship through space. They moved space around the ship. Normal ships took 3 months to cross 40,000 light-years. The Star Destroyer could do it in 6 hours. The 0-point reactors pulled energy from the quantum vacuum itself. They produced more power than some stars. The ship could run forever without fuel. The nanohull was made of billions of microscopic machines. Each machine could repair itself. They could learn. They could adapt. If something hit the hull, the nanomachine studied the impact and changed to resist it better. The hull got stronger every time someone attacked it. The reality anchors were the strangest technology. They manipulated the fundamental forces of the universe. They could change gravity. They could strengthen or weaken atomic bonds. They could even affect time and space itself. Dr. Sarah Park, the head scientist, stood next to Webb. She was the sister of Dr. James Park from the embassy. She had helped design every system on this ship. "Admiral, I need to remind you about the cost," she said quietly. Webb sighed. "I know, Doctor. I have not forgotten. The cost was biological. The ship's systems were partially connected to the crew's nervous systems. This allowed for faster reactions and better control. But it had a side effect. When the ship used its combat systems, the crew aged. 1 minute of full combat aged them 1 year. The crew knew this. They had all signed the consent forms. They had all said goodbye to their families. 50 minutes of combat, Webb said. If we can end this war in 50 minutes, we all age 50 years. That is the price we pay. Dr. Park touched his shoulder gently. It is a price we pay willingly. What is 50 years compared to 700,000 years of death? Webb smiled. You sound like your brother. James always was the smart one in the family, she said. At the navigation station, Lieutenant Commander Omar Hassan called out. Coordinates locked. 40,000 light-years to the war zone. Ready for quantum fold jump on your command. Webb sat in the captain's chair. He took a deep breath. Ambassador Chen sends her regards, he said to the crew. She wanted to be here, but someone needs to manage the diplomatic fallout. So she asked me to tell you all something. She said that humanity has a gift. We can look at an impossible problem and say, let us try anyway. Today we try. Today we end a war that has lasted longer than our species has existed. The crew was silent. Then one by one they stood at their stations. It was a gesture of respect and solidarity. Webb felt proud. These people were the best of humanity. Lieutenant Hassan, engage quantum fold drive. Take us to the war zone. Yes, sir. Engaging in 3, 2, 1. The ship did not lurch or shake. Space itself simply changed around it. Through the viewports, the stars stretched into long lines of light. Then the lines became ribbons. Then the ribbons became a river of pure color. 6 hours passed. The crew worked. They checked systems. They ran simulations. They prepared. Dr. Park's team spent the time analyzing 700,000 years of war data. The Star Destroyer's artificial intelligence was the most advanced ever built. It could process information faster than any organic mind. In 6 hours, it reviewed every major battle, every peace attempt, every strategy that both empires had tried. The AI's conclusion appeared on the main display. Analysis complete, the AI's calm voice announced. The Xanthari-Krell war continues not because of resources, territory, or ideology. Primary factors: cultural momentum, economic dependence on military production, political power structures requiring external threat, and generational trauma creating revenge cycles. Recommendation: demonstrate overwhelming superiority to break established patterns. Force both empires to confront their assumptions simultaneously. In other words, Captain Torres said, show them something so shocking that they have to stop and think. Exactly, Dr. Park confirmed. Both empires believe they are the strongest power in the galaxy. Both empires believe their enemies are evil. Both empires believe there is no alternative to war. We need to prove all 3 beliefs wrong at the same time. Webb studied the tactical display. 14,000 warships were converging on a system called Nexus Prime. It was a strategic location. Both empires wanted it. Another massacre was about to happen. That is where we make our entrance, Webb decided. The ship dropped out of quantum fold. The war zone appeared on the viewports. Entire sectors of space glowed red with weapons fire. Dead ships floated everywhere. Some were centuries old. Some had died seconds ago. Open all communication channels, Webb ordered. Every frequency. Every language. Maximum power. I want both empires to hear this. The communication officer nodded. Channels open, sir, Webb stood. He looked at his crew. They looked back at him with determination. This is Admiral Marcus Webb of the United Earthship Stardestroyer. We are transmitting on all frequencies to the Xanthari Collective and the Krell Dominion. Your war has lasted 700,000 years. It ends now. This is not a request. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact. Stand down, or we will make you stand down. On the tactical display, 14,000 warships changed course. They all turned toward the Star Destroyer. Captain Torres checked her sensors. Sir, both fleets are targeting us. They are charging weapons, Webb sat back down. Then let us show them what humanity brought to this galaxy. All hands, battle stations. Engage defensive systems. Remember, we are not here to destroy them. We are here to stop them. The Star Destroyer's hull began to glow. The nanomachines activated. The reality anchors powered up. The ship was ready. The 700,000-year war was about to meet its end. The battle began at exactly 14 Galactic Standard Time. 7,000 Xanthari ships fired first. Their weapons were beams of pure energy that could cut through planets. The beams hit the Star Destroyer from every direction. The human ship should have exploded instantly. Instead, the hull glowed brighter. The nanomachines absorbed every joule of energy. The zero-point reactors converted the attack into power. The ship's energy reserves increased. Shields at 150%, Captain Torres reported. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were wide. They are charging us up. 7,000 Krell ships fired next. Their weapons were different. They used concentrated matter streams, projectiles that traveled at near light speed, and biological weapons that ate through metal. The nano-hull adapted instantly. The machines changed their structure. The projectiles bounced off. The biological weapons died before touching the hull. The matter streams dispersed harmlessly. Hull integrity at 100%, Dr. Park announced. The nanomachines are learning faster than predicted. Each attack makes us stronger. Admiral Webb watched the tactical display. 14,000 ships surrounded them. Each ship was massive. Each ship had weapons that could destroy moons. Together they had enough firepower to crack a planet in half. They could not scratch the Stardestroyer. Activate Protocol Mirror, Webb ordered. Lieutenant Hassan's fingers moved across his controls. Protocol Mirror activated. Defensive reflection online. The Stardestroyer did something impossible. Every weapon that hit it was analyzed instantly. The ship's reality anchors manipulated space itself. The weapons reflected back toward their sources, but they were twice as powerful now. A Xanthari dreadnought fired a massive energy lance. The lance hit the Stardestroyer and bounced back. The reflected lance struck the dreadnought with double force. The massive ship's shields failed. Its hull cracked open. Atmosphere vented into space. The dreadnought did not explode. The crew survived. But the ship was disabled. We are not killing them, Webb said to his crew. Remember that. We disable. We do not destroy. All around the battlefield, the same thing happened. Ships fired. Their weapons reflected back. Ships went dark, disabled but intact. The Xanthari commander, a being of pure energy named Kothvara, watched from its flagship. For the first time in its 3,000-year life, it felt something new. Fear. What is this ship? Kothvara demanded. Our weapons feed it. Our strongest attacks cannot harm it. What are these humans? The Krell Queen mind watched from its hive ship. Its billion-part consciousness struggled to understand. The Krell had fought for 700,000 years. They had faced every weapon imaginable. This was beyond imagination. All ships knew strategy, the Queen mind commanded. Ignore the human ship. Continue primary objectives. Destroy Xanthari vessels, but the Xanthari had the same idea. All ships ignore the humans. Focus on Krell targets. For 5 minutes, the two fleets tried to fight each other while ignoring the Stardestroyer. It did not work. Every shot that passed near the human ship was caught by its reality anchors and redirected. Missiles changed course mid-flight. Energy beams bent like light through a lens. The Stardestroyer became a shield protecting both fleets from each other. Neither side could land an effective blow. Sir, they are getting frustrated, Captain Torres observed. Some ships are ramming each other. Webb frowned. Time for the next demonstration. Charge the reality collapse defense. Dr. Park looked worried. Admiral, that system is experimental. We have only tested it in simulation. Then today it gets a real test, Webb said. The Xanthari are preparing their ultimate weapon. I can see the energy signature building. On the tactical display, a Xanthari superweapon platform powered up. It was a massive sphere, 3 kilometers across. Energy crackled around it. That is a reality collapse bomb, Dr. Park said quietly. They use it to destroy entire sectors of space. Everything within 10 light years will cease to exist. Us, them, everything. They are desperate, Webb said. They would rather destroy themselves than let us stop their war. The reality collapse bomb launched. It was not fast. It did not need to be fast. It just needed to reach the target zone and detonate. Then everything would end. The Stardestroyer's reality anchors activated at full power. Space itself became solid around the ship. The bomb entered the zone and detonated. Reality tried to collapse. The fundamental forces of the universe tried to tear themselves apart. For a microsecond, the space around the Stardestroyer existed in a state that physics said was impossible. Then the reality anchors stabilized everything. The collapse wave froze. The ship's systems analyzed it, understood it, and reversed it. The bomb's energy dissipated into harmless radiation. The Stardestroyer remained untouched. The crews of 14,000 ships stared in disbelief. Status report, Webb ordered. All systems normal, Captain Torres said. Reality anchors performed perfectly. Hull integrity at 100%. The crew experienced minor temporal displacement, but everyone is fine. Webb stood and walked to the communication console. Open a channel to both fleets, visual and audio. His image appeared on the view screens of every ship in both fleets. He looked tired but determined. Commanders of the Xanthari and Krell fleets, you have now seen 3 things. First, you cannot hurt us. Your weapons only make us stronger. Second, we can turn your attacks against you without trying. Third, Your ultimate weapons are useless against us. He paused to let that sink in. We have been fighting for 15 minutes. You have learned that conventional warfare is meaningless against us. You have 35 minutes to learn something much more important. You need to learn why you should stop trying to hurt us. More importantly, you need to learn why you should stop trying to hurt each other. Webb gestured to someone off screen. Dr. Park appeared next to him. This is Dr. Sarah Park, our chief scientist. She has studied your war for 3 years. She has some things to show you. Things you have forgotten. Things you never knew. Watch carefully. Your future depends on it. The transmission changed. Historical data began streaming to both fleets. 700,000 years of war, but not the version either empire taught their children. This was the true history, compiled from thousands of sources verified by AI analysis. This was the story of how the war really started, and it was nothing like what either empire believed. Dr. Sarah Park stood on the Stardestroyer's bridge preparing to show 2 ancient empires the truth they had forgotten. Behind her, technicians worked at their stations streaming data to 14,000 warships. Beginning historical reconstruction, Dr. Park announced, 700,000 years ago, the Xanthari-Krell first contact. The holographic display changed. It showed a mining station orbiting a gas giant. Xanthari workers floated through the facility, harvesting rare elements from the planet's atmosphere. They had been there for 50 years. It was a peaceful operation. Then a Krell scout ship arrived. The Krell were exploring new territories. They saw the mining station and scanned it. The scan was routine, not aggressive, but the scan used quantum resonance frequencies. The Xanthari could not understand these frequencies. To the Xanthari, the scan looked like a weapons lock. The Xanthari station sent a warning. Unknown vessel, you are targeting us with hostile sensors. Power down or we will defend ourselves. The Krell could not understand the Xanthari language properly. Their translation systems were new. The warning came through as, unknown vessel, you are trespassing in our sacred space. Leave or be destroyed. The Krell scout captain made a decision. She thought she was being threatened for entering empty space. She powered up defensive shields. The Xanthari saw the shields activate. They interpreted this as preparation for attack. They fired a warning shot. The warning shot missed the Krell ship by 300 kilometers. It was clearly meant as a warning. But the Krell scout ship was small. The warning shot's energy wave still rattled the ship. 2 Krell crew members were injured by falling equipment. The Krell scout captain, frightened and confused, sent a distress call. Under attack by unknown hostile species. Requesting immediate assistance. Both empires sent military ships to investigate. Neither side understood what the other was saying. Both sides were scared. Both sides thought they were defending themselves. A small skirmish happened. 10 ships per side. 47 Xanthari died. 63 Krell died. It was a tragedy. It was also an accident, but then politics got involved. Dr. Park's reconstruction showed what happened next. Xanthari leaders used the incident to consolidate power. Look at these aggressive aliens, they told their people. We must be strong to protect ourselves. Krell leaders did the same thing. These energy beings attacked our scout ship unprovoked. We must be ready for war. Both sides built more military ships. Both sides prepared for a second encounter. Both sides were certain the other side was evil. When they met again, 6 months later, they were ready for war. And so they went to war. That is how it started, Dr. Park said. A misunderstanding. A translation error. 2 frightened scout crews. And then pride. Both sides were too proud to admit the whole thing was a mistake. Admiral Webb watched the tactical displays. Ships from both fleets were going dark. Not from damage, but because their crews had stopped working. They were watching the historical reconstruction. 700,000 years of propaganda was crumbling in real time. Continue, Doctor, Webb said. Dr. Park showed them more. For the first 1,000 years, both empires tried to make peace several times. But each time, hardliners on both sides sabotaged the talks. Leaders who built their power on war could not survive peace. Generals who commanded vast fleets would lose their status. Weapons manufacturers who made fortunes would go bankrupt. The reconstruction showed assassination attempts. Xanthari peace advocates killed by their own people. Krell diplomats executed as traitors. Each act of violence pushed the empires further apart. After 10,000 years, Dr. Park continued, neither empire could remember why they hated each other. But they knew they did hate. It became cultural. Xanthari children learned that Krell were monsters. Krell larvae learned that Xanthari were demons. Hate became identity. She showed them schools, Xanthari classrooms where young energy beings learned battle tactics before they learned art. Krell hatcheries where larvae were conditioned for combat before they learned to speak. After 100,000 years, your economies became completely dependent on war. Xanthari industry exists to build weapons. Krell hive structures exist to produce soldiers. Neither of you knows how to exist peacefully anymore. Images flashed across the displays. Xanthari factory complexes stretching across entire planets. Krell breeding worlds producing trillions of warriors. Both societies had become machines that only knew how to make war. And now, after 700,000 years, you have both forgotten something crucial, Dr. Park said. Her voice became softer. You have forgotten that you are not that different from each other. The holographic display changed again. It split into two images. On one side, a Xanthari parent teaching a child about the colors of a nebula. On the other side, a Krell parent teaching its offspring about the patterns of stars. More images appeared. Xanthari artists creating sculptures from solidified energy. Krell composers arranging pheromone symphonies. Scientists from both species discovering the same mathematical truths. Philosophers from both sides wondering about the nature of existence. You both love beauty, Dr. Park said. You both create art. You both seek knowledge. You both care for your children. You both wonder about your place in the universe. You are both intelligent, emotional, creative species, and you have wasted 700,000 years trying to destroy each other over a mistake that happened so long ago that nobody even remembers it correctly. Silence filled the communication channels. 14,000 ships hung in space, their crews processing what they had just learned. Then Admiral Webb spoke. We are now 20 minutes into this encounter. We have shown you that you cannot defeat us with force. We have shown you the truth about your war. Now we will show you what we can do if you do not choose peace. The Stardestroyer's systems activated again, but this time it was not defensive. Initiating temporal demonstration, Captain Torres announced. The reality anchors created a bubble of altered time around one of the Xanthari flagships. Inside the bubble, time ran backwards. The crew watched their own ship age in reverse, then watched it get hit by a simulated weapon, then watched it explode in a simulated battle. Then time ran forward again. The ship was back to normal, undamaged, but every person on that ship had just experienced their own death. That was a simulation, Webb said calmly. We can manipulate time itself. We can erase you from history. We can make it so you never existed. We will not do this, but we want you to understand what you are facing. He paused. You have 15 minutes to make a choice. End this war, or discover what happens when a species that controls time and space loses its patience. The countdown had begun. 15 minutes remained. 14,000 ships hung in space, their commanders facing an impossible decision. Inside the Xanthari flagship, Commander Kothvara gathered its council. These were beings of pure energy, each thousands of years old. They had known nothing but war their entire existence. These humans speak the truth, one council member said, the energy being pulsed with confused colors. I felt the temporal displacement. They can erase us. They showed us our history, another said. The war started with a mistake. Everything we believe is wrong. But if we admit that, Kothvara said quietly, what are we? Our entire civilization is built on this war. Our purpose, our identity, our meaning. If the war ends, who are we? In the Krell hive ship, the Queen Mind was having a similar crisis. Its billion-part consciousness was arguing with itself. Some parts wanted peace. Some parts wanted to fight until death. The Queen Mind was, for the first time in its existence, truly divided. We cannot trust these humans, some of its components insisted. This is a trick. They want us to lower our guard. But they could have destroyed us already, other components argued. They have shown mercy. They disabled our ships but killed no one. They gave us truth instead of propaganda. The Queen Mind thought about the historical data. The first contact incident, the translation error, the accident that became a war. 700,000 years of death because nobody wanted to admit a mistake. On the Stardestroyer's bridge, Admiral Webb watched the timer count down. 10 minutes remained. Sir, detecting movement in both fleets, Captain Torres reported. Some ships are breaking formation. Which direction? Webb asked. Toward us, sir. But they are not charging weapons, I think they are trying to surrender. How many? Approximately 400 ships. Mixed Xanthari and Krell, they are broadcasting peace signals. Dr. Park smiled. The younger crews. Soldiers who never chose this war. They are taking the chance we gave them. But not everyone was happy about the peace signals. On both sides, hardline commanders were furious. A Xanthari battle group of 600 ships suddenly opened fire on the ships trying to surrender. They believed these ships were traitors. No, Webb said sharply. We did not come here to watch them kill each other. Activate the Sanctuary Protocol. Lieutenant Hassan's fingers flew across his controls. Sanctuary Protocol engaging. The Star Destroyer's reality anchors created thousands of small dimensional portals. Every crew member on the 600 attacking ships suddenly found themselves teleported into safe zones aboard their own vessels. They were unharmed, but they could not reach their weapons or engines. Then the Star Destroyer's nanosystems activated. Microscopic machines flew through space faster than bullets. They reached the 600 attacking ships and began to dismantle them, but they did not explode. They did not burn. They simply came apart atom by atom in perfect order. Within 60 seconds, 600 massive warships had been reduced to their component atoms. The atoms arranged themselves in space, forming letters that spelled the same message in both Xanthari and Krell languages. Enough. The message was 10 kilometers tall. It blazed with light from the ionized atoms. Every ship in both fleets could read it. 5 minutes, Webb announced on all channels. You have 5 minutes to signal peace. After that, we will remove your capacity to wage war. We will not harm your people. But we will dismantle every weapon, every warship, every military installation you possess. You will be defenseless in a galaxy that remembers what you have done. He stood and walked to the front of the bridge. I know you are afraid. I know that peace seems impossible after so long. But I also know that you are tired. I know that every one of you has lost friends, family, entire worlds. I know that deep down, beneath the propaganda and the hate and the fear, you want this to end. His voice became softer. We did not come here as conquerors. We came as witnesses. We witnessed your suffering. We witnessed your loss. We witnessed 700,000 years of pointless death. And we decided that someone needed to say enough. Someone needed to care more about your future than your past. On the Xanthari flagship, Kothvara made a decision. Open a channel to the Krell Queen Mind. Direct channel. No intermediaries. Commander, that is forbidden by laws that no longer matter, Kothvara interrupted. Open the channel. For the first time in 700,000 years, the leader of the Xanthari spoke directly to the leader of the Krell. Queen Mind, this is Commander Kothvara. I do not know how to say this. I am sorry. I'm sorry that my ancestors started this. I am sorry that my people continued it. I am sorry for every Krell who died because we were too proud to admit we were wrong. The Queen Mind received the message. Its billion components debated for what felt like an eternity, but was only 10 seconds. Then the Queen Mind responded. Commander Kothvara, this is the Queen Mind of the Krell Dominion. We are also sorry. Our ancestors escalated the conflict. Our pride matched yours. We have killed as many as you have. We are equally responsible for this horror. Silence on the communication channels. Then Kothvara said, What do we do now? We have 3 minutes to decide, the Queen Mind said. If we signal peace, we show weakness. Our hardliners will rebel. There will be civil war within our own empires. Then let there be civil war, Kothvara said firmly. Better a short conflict within our borders than an eternal war that consumes the galaxy. The humans are right. This needs to end. 2 minutes remained. The Xanthari flagship powered down its weapons. Its shields dropped. It sent a signal on all frequencies. A simple mathematical sequence that meant peace in the universal language of numbers. 1 minute remained. The Krell hive ship hesitated. The Queen Mind's components were still arguing. Some wanted to fight to the last. Some begged for peace. 30 seconds. The Queen Mind thought about its children. Trillions of Krell larvae born into war taught to hate before they learned to think. What future did they have? More of the same? Another 700,000 years of death? 10 seconds. The Krell hive ship powered down its weapons. 5 seconds. Both empires broadcast peace signals simultaneously. The 700,000-year war ended with 3 seconds to spare. 1 month had passed since the 50-minute war ended. The galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. A peace conference was being held on a neutral station called Haven. The station had been built specifically for this purpose. It orbited a star that neither empire claimed. Thousands of delegates from hundreds of species gathered there. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked through the station's observation deck. Through the massive windows she could see the USS Stardestroyer. The great ship remained in orbit, a silent guardian and a reminder of what humanity could do if necessary. But she hoped it would never be necessary again. Ambassador Chen, a familiar voice said. She turned to see Commander Kothvara, the Xanthari being floated in its containment sphere, its energy form cycling through calm blue colors. Commander, Sarah said with a small bow, how are the negotiations progressing? Slowly, Kothvara admitted.
700,000 years of hate does not disappear in a month.
But we are talking. That is something we have not truly done in all that time. Sarah smiled. Talking is the first step. Everything else follows from that. The queen mind of the Krell approached them. It was smaller than Sarah expected. She had learned that the queen mind could adjust its physical form. For the negotiations, it had chosen a form that was less intimidating to other species. Ambassador Chen, the queen mind said through its translator, we owe humanity a debt we can never repay. Sarah shook her head. You owe us nothing. We did what we thought was right. What happens next is up to you. What happens next is hard, Kothvara said. We are discovering things about our empires that we never knew, or things we knew but ignored. Over the past month, investigations had revealed dark truths. Both empires had been infiltrated by war profiteers, individuals and corporations who made fortunes from the endless conflict. They had sabotaged peace efforts for hundreds of thousands of years. They had assassinated peace advocates. They had manipulated information to keep the war going. We found records of 63 successful peace initiatives, the Queen Mind said bitterly. 63 times over 700,000 years our peoples almost made peace. Each time profiteers sabotaged the process. They killed the peacemakers and blamed the other side. What are you doing about these profiteers? Sarah asked. They are being arrested, Kothvara said. Both of our empires are working together on this. It is strange coordinating with former enemies, but it feels right. Sarah looked out at the stars. You are also finding other things, I hear. The Queen Mind made a sound like a sigh. Yes, we found thousands of species imprisoned by both empires. Civilizations that refused to join the war were labeled as threats and locked away. We are freeing them now. They are angry. We do not blame them. We also found hidden worlds, Kothvara added, entire civilizations that fled the war millions of years ago. They hid themselves so well that we never found them. Now they are emerging. The galaxy is more crowded than we knew. More complex too, Sarah said. But complexity is good. Complexity means options. Options mean freedom. They stood in silence for a moment watching the Stardestroyer. Sarah thought about its crew. 500 people who had aged 50 years and 50 minutes to end this war. They were heroes, but they had paid a terrible price. Admiral Webb was now over 100 years old biologically, though only weeks had passed in real time. The crew had been given extensive medical treatment. Human technology could extend life, but it could not give them back the years they had sacrificed. Webb had said it was worth it. Every member of the crew agreed. But Sarah still felt guilty about the cost they had paid. Ambassador, we have a question, the Queen Mind said, breaking the silence. The Galactic Council wants to give humanity a leadership position. You have the most powerful ship in the galaxy. You have the moral authority of ending the war. They want you to lead. Sarah had expected this, and humanity's answer is no. Both aliens seemed surprised. But why? Kothvara asked. You have earned the right to lead. We did not earn anything, Sarah said firmly. We did what needed to be done. But we are still young. We are still learning. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to explore it. We want to learn from it. We want to help when we can, but we do not want power over others. She turned to face them fully. Besides, the galaxy does not need human leaders. It needs you. Both of you. You are ancient civilizations with vast knowledge and resources. Now that you are not spending everything on war, imagine what you can do. Imagine what you can build together. 10 years later, Sarah Chen stood in a park on a reclaimed world. This planet had been a battlefield for 50,000 years. Every centimeter of its surface had been scorched by weapons. Nothing had lived here for millennia. Now it was a garden. Xanthari and Krell had worked together to restore it. They had cleaned the soil, replanted forests, and brought back oceans. It had taken 10 years, but the planet lived again. Sarah watched 3 children playing near a fountain. One was human, about 8 years old. One was a young Xanthari, its energy form contained in a small learning sphere. One was a Krell juvenile, its carapace still soft and pale. They were playing a game, chasing each other, laughing. They did not care about old wars. They did not know hate. They were the first generation in 700,000 years to grow up in peace. "Beautiful, is it not?" a voice said. Sarah turned to see Admiral Webb. He looked old now, his hair completely white, his face lined with wrinkles, but his eyes were still sharp. "Marcus," Sarah said warmly, "you should be resting." "I have rested enough," he said. "I wanted to see this. The park, the children, the future we bought with 50 minutes of our lives." They sat on a bench together, 2 old friends watching the future play. "Do you regret it?" Sarah asked quietly. Webb watched the 3 children. "Regret sacrificing 50 years to end a 700,000-year war? Regret giving these children a chance at peace?" He smiled. Not even for a second. Above them, the sky was blue and clear. Ships from 100 species flew through the atmosphere, trading and exploring and living. The galaxy had not become perfect. There were still conflicts, still problems, still challenges, but the endless war was over, and that made everything possible. On the bench, Sarah and Marcus sat in comfortable silence. Around them, the park bustled with life. Above them, the USS Stardestroyer remained in orbit, now a museum, a memorial, a reminder of the day humanity looked at an impossible problem and said, "Let us try anyway." And they had succeeded, not through conquest, not through domination, but through courage, compassion, and the simple belief that peace was worth fighting for. The children laughed. The galaxy turned, and for the first time in 700,000 years, the future looked bright. Ambassador Krell stood before the Galactic Council, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of dismissal. The chamber filled with representatives from 100 worlds, all watching him with varying degrees of attention. Some floated in specialized tanks, others perched on elevated platforms designed for their unique physiologies. The Ghost Fleet, the Phantom Warriors, tales told to frighten young cadets. Ambassador Krell's voice echoed through the vast space. "Nothing more than ancient superstition," he declared. The council members shifted in their seats. Some nodded in agreement. Others remained silent, remembering the old stories their grandparents once told. 500 years had passed since humanity vanished from known space. Once they had been vibrant members of the galactic community. Their blue planet, Earth, had sent explorers and diplomats across the stars. They built stations, established trade routes, and shared their peculiar customs with anyone willing to listen. Humans laughed easily and made friends quickly. They were known for their curiosity and their strange determination to never give up. Then came the prototype. The humans called it the USDF Phantom. It was their most advanced warship, equipped with experimental technology that could bend space and time. The ship would jump across vast distances in mere moments, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. The technology was revolutionary, dangerous, and completely untested at full scale. The Phantom launched on a clear morning from Earth's orbital dock. Thousands watched as the massive vessel powered up its experimental drive. The test was simple. Jump to the edge of the solar system and return. The crew of 300 waved to the cameras. Captain Maria Santos smiled confidently from the bridge. "Everything is ready," she told ground control. "We will see you in 3 hours." The ship activated its drive. A brilliant flash of light filled the sky. Then silence. The Phantom was gone. 3 hours passed. Then 3 days. Then 3 weeks. Search parties found nothing. No debris, no distress signals, no trace of the ship or its crew. It was as if the Phantom had simply ceased to exist. The loss devastated Earth. Other nations blamed the Defense Force for rushing the test. Political tensions rose. Within a year, humanity withdrew from the galactic community. Their embassies closed. Their colonies went dark. Within 10 years, Earth itself stopped responding to all communication. Ships sent to investigate found the solar system empty, abandoned. The humans were gone. 5 centuries later, humanity had become a curiosity. Museums displayed their artifacts. Scholars studied their history. Children learned about the species that vanished without explanation. And some, the very old or the very superstitious, whispered about the Ghost Fleet. They said the Phantom still sailed the stars, protecting the galaxy from the shadows. They said it appeared during great battles, turning the tide before vanishing once more. Ambassador Krell dismissed these stories with a wave of his upper left arm. The council had more pressing concerns than fairy tales. The Devourers had arrived. The Devourers were unlike any enemy the galaxy had faced. They were not conquerors seeking territory or resources. They were a hive mind that consumed everything in their path. Entire planets stripped clean, populations absorbed into their collective consciousness. They moved through space like a plague, leaving nothing but empty worlds behind. System after system fell. The Council scrambled to organize a defense, but the Devourers adapted to every tactic. They learned from each battle and became stronger. Fear spread through the galaxy faster than any disease. In a small research facility on the Outer Rim, Dr. Selenai worked late into the night. She was a xenoarchaeologist, one of the few who specialized in human artifacts. Her office overflowed with data crystals, ancient tablets, and dusty relics from Earth. Most of her colleagues considered human studies a dead end. Why study a species that no longer existed? But Selenai believed there was more to the story. She had spent years piecing together fragments of data from the Phantom's final transmission. The official report said the transmission was corrupted, meaningless static. Selenai disagreed. She had found patterns in the noise, equations hidden in what others dismissed as random data. Tonight, she finally cracked the code. The data crystals glowed softly as she ran the decryption program. Her translator device hummed, converting ancient human script into her own language. What she read made her blood run cold. The Phantom had not disappeared. It had become unstuck in space-time. The experimental drive created a quantum anchor, tethering the ship to multiple points in time simultaneously. The crew experienced only moments while centuries passed in normal space. They existed in a probability wake, seeing possible futures and past events all at once. The final log entry was from Captain Santos herself. Her words were fragmented but clear. "We see it all," she wrote. "Every timeline, every possibility. We cannot come home, but we can protect them. We will become the shield they need, even if they never know we are there." Selene leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. If the logs were true, the Ghost Fleet was not a myth. The Phantom was real, sailing through time itself, watching over the galaxy. And if the old stories were accurate, it appeared during moments of greatest need. She thought of the Devourers, advancing unchecked through civilized space. She thought of the Council, desperate and afraid. And she wondered if humanity's greatest creation was about to return. The galaxy needed heroes. Perhaps the ghosts of the past would answer that call. Selenai reached for her communication device. Someone needed to hear this. Someone needed to know that the legends might be true. As she began composing her message, a priority alert flashed across her screen. The Devourers had launched a massive assault. The Tarvo system was under attack. The Council was mustering every available ship for a final stand. Selenai looked at the decoded logs, then at the alert. Timing was everything. If the Phantom truly protected the galaxy, if it appeared when hope seemed lost, then perhaps it was already on its way. She sent her message to the Council with trembling hands. They would think her mad. They would dismiss her findings as fantasy. But she had to try. Across the galaxy, fleets assembled, soldiers prepared for battle, civilians evacuated their homes. Everyone knew this might be the end. The Devourers had never been stopped before. Why would this time be different? But in the dark spaces between stars, something stirred. A ship that existed in many times and no time simultaneously felt the ripples of approaching catastrophe. The crew, sustained by forces they barely understood, watched the unfolding crisis through their fragmented perception of reality. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the Phantom, looking at a galaxy 500 years older than the one she left. Her crew, weary beyond measure, stood ready. The ghost ship prepared to become real once more. The legends were about to be tested. The myth was about to become history. The Tarvo system blazed with weapon fire. Commander Vectar stood on the bridge of the flagship Steadfast, watching his fleet crumble before the Devourer assault. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes. Distress calls flooded the communication channels. He had commanded fleets for 30 years, survived a dozen wars, but nothing prepared him for this. The Devourer bioships moved like living creatures through space. Their hulls pulsed with organic matter. They fired weapons that seemed to grow from their bodies, launching projectiles that ate through shields and armor alike. When a ship was destroyed, the Devourers absorbed the debris, growing stronger with each kill. Commander Vector had assembled the largest defensive fleet in galactic history. 2,000 warships from 50 different species. It was not enough. The Devourers outnumbered them 3-1, and their hive mind coordinated attacks with perfect precision. Every tactical advantage the Coalition tried was countered within minutes. A Devourer cruiser rammed into the frigate Dancing Star. The organic ship latched onto the hull and began consuming it. Crew members evacuated in escape pods, but many did not make it out in time. Vector watched helplessly as another ally fell. He had known the Dancing Star's captain for years. They had shared drinks after the last war, promising each other they would retire peacefully. That promise meant nothing now. Deploy reserve squadrons to Sector 7, Vector ordered. His tactical officer scrambled to relay the command. The reserve squadrons launched, but they were already exhausted from previous engagements. This was the third major battle in 2 weeks. The fleet had no time to rest, no time to repair. They fought with damaged ships and wounded crews because there was no alternative. On Tarvos Prime, the largest planet in the system, evacuation transports struggled to carry refugees to safety. Millions crowded the spaceports. Families clutched their belongings, children cried. Elders prayed to their various gods. The transports could only take so many at a time. Everyone knew the horrible truth. Not everyone would escape. Dr. Seleni watched the battle reports from her research station. She had sent her findings to the council but received no response. They were too busy managing the crisis. She felt helpless, trapped far from the fighting with knowledge that might change everything. The decoded log sat on her desk, glowing softly in the dim light. Strange sensor readings began appearing on Coalition scanners. Ghost contacts that vanished before they could be identified. Officers dismissed them as sensor glitches caused by the intense fighting. Equipment malfunctioned all the time during battle. No one had time to investigate phantom readings, but the readings continued. A blip here, a flicker there. Something moved at the edge of the battlefield, invisible to conventional sensors but present nonetheless. The Devourers seemed agitated. Their usually perfect coordination faltered for brief moments. Ships paused mid-attack as if confused by something they could not identify. Commander Vector noticed the pattern. The enemy's behavior had changed. They were still winning, still overwhelming his forces, but something distracted them. He checked the sensor logs himself. The ghost readings clustered around areas where Devourer coordination broke down. Coincidence? Or something more? A priority message arrived from Seleni's research station. Vector almost deleted it. He had no time for academic theories. But something made him pause. The message header mentioned the Phantom. Vector's grandmother had told him stories about the Ghost Fleet when he was young. She swore she saw it once during the border wars, a massive ship that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. He opened the message. Selene's words poured out in a rush. The decoded logs, the quantum anchor, the probability wake. The Phantom existed outside normal time, protecting the galaxy from threats across history. It appeared during moments of greatest need. Vector wanted to dismiss it as fantasy, but the ghost readings on his sensors suggested otherwise. Another wave of Devourers crashed into the Coalition lines. The carrier Bright Hope exploded, taking 300 crew members with it. Vector gripped his command chair. They were losing. Within hours, the fleet would be destroyed. Within days, Tarvos Prime would fall. The Devourers would consume another system and move on to the next, unless the myths were true. Unless humanity's lost ship still sailed among them. Vector looked at the ghost readings again. They were increasing in frequency and strength. Something was coming. Something big. On the surface of Tarvos Prime, an elderly woman watched the sky. Her name was Elena, and she was one of the last living descendants of Earth's colonial program. Her great-great-grandmother had been human, part of the generation that fled Earth after the Phantom's disappearance. Elena had grown up hearing stories about the old days, about humanity's courage and innovation. She remembered one story in particular. Her grandmother told it every year on the anniversary of humanity's disappearance. The Phantom would return, she said. When humanity's children needed it most, when all hope seemed lost, the ghost ship would come back. It would fight for those who could not fight for themselves. It would be the shield that protected the innocent. Elena had always thought it was just a story, a way to comfort children during dark times. But now, watching the battle rage above her world, she found herself believing. She whispered a prayer to ancestors she never knew. "Please," she said to the empty sky, "if you are real, if you are out there, we need you now." In the void between stars, the Phantom felt the call, not through any conventional communication, but through the probability wake that connected them to all moments in time. They saw the battle, past and present and future simultaneously. They saw the Devourers consuming world after world. They saw the Coalition's desperate stand. They saw Elena's prayer. Captain Santos turned to her crew. 500 years they had existed in this strange state between existence and non-existence. 500 years they had watched and waited and protected from the shadows. They were tired beyond imagination, but their duty remained clear. "All hands to battle stations," Santos ordered. Her crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had fought countless battles across multiple timelines. They had learned strategies that would not be invented for centuries. They had weapons powered by temporal distortions that could strike targets in multiple moments simultaneously. The Phantom began its approach to the Tarvos system. Reality bent around the ship as it moved through probability space. To outside observers, it would appear as nothing more than sensor ghosts. But soon, very soon, it would become solid. It would become real. The ghost would show itself. Back on the Steadfast, Commander Vector watched his fleet make its final stand. They formed a defensive sphere around Tarvos Prime, every ship pouring fire into the approaching Devourers. It was magnificent and futile. The enemy kept coming. They could not be stopped. The ghost readings on his sensors suddenly spiked. Every screen in the bridge flickered. The tactical display showed something massive emerging from nothing. Space itself seemed to tear open. And through that tear came a ship unlike anything anyone had seen in 500 years. The USDF Phantom had arrived. The myths were real. The legends were true. And the galaxy's greatest battle was about to begin. Reality fractured. That was the only way Commander Vector could describe what he witnessed. Space itself cracked like glass, and through those cracks poured light that should not exist. Colors that had no names. Energies that his sensors could not classify. The Phantom emerged from the impossible. The ship was massive, larger than any dreadnought in the Coalition fleet. Its hull bore the marks of countless battles, scorch marks from weapons that had not been invented yet, repairs made with materials that should not exist. The entire vessel shimmered, phasing in and out of visibility as if it could not decide whether to be real or not. Every sensor on the Steadfast went haywire. Temporal readings spiked off the charts. The ship existed in multiple time frames simultaneously, present and past and future all layered on top of each other. Looking at it hurt. The mind struggled to process something that should not be possible. The Devourers reacted immediately. Their hive mind sensed the anomaly and directed dozens of bioships toward the Phantom. They swarmed like insects, firing weapons that could dissolve armor and shields. The organic projectiles struck the Phantom's hull and simply vanished, absorbed by temporal distortions that surrounded the ship like an invisible shield. Then the Phantom opened fire. Weapon systems that defied physics lit up along its hull. Beams of condensed time struck Devourer ships, and something impossible happened. The enemy vessels aged centuries in seconds. Their organic hulls withered and died. Ships that were alive moments ago became ancient husks that crumbled into dust. Other weapons fired simultaneously, but they did not target where the Devourers were. They targeted where the Devourers would be. The Phantom could see probability, could perceive the future paths of enemy movement. It fired at empty space, and Devourer ships flew directly into those shots, unable to avoid attacks that predicted their every move. The hive mind recoiled. For the first time in their conquest of the galaxy, the Devourers encountered something they could not understand. Their collective consciousness tried to process the Phantom's existence and failed. The ship existed in too many moments at once. They could not predict it because it was already everywhere and nowhere. Commander Vector stared at his view screen, unable to speak. His tactical officer whispered something about weapon signatures matching ancient human designs. His communications officer tried desperately to establish contact with the ghost ship. All around them, the tide of battle shifted. The Coalition fleet rallied. Seeing the Phantom's devastating assault gave them hope. Ships that were retreating turned back to fight. Damaged vessels found new strength. They poured fire into the confused Devourer formation, taking advantage of the chaos the Phantom created. A Devourer battleship, one of their largest vessels, targeted the Phantom with its main weapon. The biocannon fired a concentrated burst of consuming energy that had destroyed moons. The projectile struck the Phantom dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the projectile simply reversed its course and flew back toward the battleship that fired it. The Devourer vessel consumed itself with its own weapon. Dr. Seleni watched the battle feed from her research station, tears streaming down her face. She had been right. The legends were true. The Phantom existed. After 500 years, humanity's greatest creation had returned to protect the galaxy. She wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. On Tarvos Prime, Elena stood with others who refused to evacuate. They were too old or too stubborn to run. They watched the sky light up with weapon fire and saw something that defied explanation. A ship that looked like it belonged in a museum was single-handedly fighting an army. And winning, Elena laughed. It was a sound of pure joy mixed with disbelief. Her grandmother's stories were real. The Phantom had returned. She grabbed the person next to her and pointed at the sky. "Do you see it?" she shouted. "Do you see? They came back for us." Aboard the Phantom, Captain Santos stood on a bridge that existed in multiple time periods at once. She saw her crew as they were 500 years ago, young and confident. She saw them as they were now, aged by temporal strain and the weight of endless duty. She saw them as they would be if they survived what came next. "Focus fire on the command clusters," Santos ordered. Her weapons officer nodded and adjusted targeting parameters. They had fought the Devourers across multiple timelines. They knew the hive mind's weaknesses. They knew where to strike to cause maximum disruption. The Phantom moved through space like nothing the Coalition forces had seen. It accelerated and decelerated in ways that should tear a ship apart. It changed direction without turning. It was there and then suddenly somewhere else, as if distance meant nothing. The ship did not travel through space. It folded space around itself, but the Phantom was taking damage. The temporal shields that protected it flickered and failed in places. Ancient hull plating cracked under the strain of existing in multiple moments. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. System failures cascaded through sections of the ship. The Phantom had been fighting for 500 years without rest. It was dying. A massive explosion rocked the ship. A Devourer suicide vessel had managed to ram into the Phantom's lower hull. The organic matter began spreading, consuming the metal, trying to absorb the ghost ship into the hive mind. Engineering teams rushed to contain the breach, but the consuming was spreading faster than they could stop it. Santos felt the pain through her connection to the ship. The Phantom was more than metal and circuits. It was alive in ways that were hard to explain. It breathed temporal energy. It fed on probability, and now it was wounded, truly wounded in a way that even its temporal healing could not fix quickly enough. Communications finally managed to establish a link with the Coalition fleet. Static filled the channel, interference from temporal distortions. Through the noise, Santos's voice came through. "This is Captain Maria Santos of the United Space Defense Force ship Phantom. We are here to help. Hold your positions and let us work." Commander Vector grabbed his communication device. "Captain Santos? But that's impossible. You disappeared 500 years ago. We thought you were dead. How are you here?" The response came broken by static. "Long story, Commander, very long. But right now focus on survival. We have been fighting these creatures across multiple timelines. We know their weaknesses. Follow our lead and we might just win this." "What happened to you?" Vector asked. "Where have you been?" "Protecting you," Santos replied simply. "We became trapped outside normal time during our test flight. We could not return home, so we did the only thing we could do. We became the guardians that the galaxy needed. We have been watching, fighting, shielding you from threats you never knew existed." The transmission cut out briefly, then returned. "We paid a price for this duty. Time is not kind to those who exist outside it, but we do not regret our choice." Vector felt his throat tighten. 500 years. 500 years they had fought alone, protecting a galaxy that thought them dead. The sacrifice was beyond comprehension. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Thank you for not abandoning us." Santos's voice softened. "We could never abandon you. You are humanity's children, all of you. Every species in this galaxy. We swore to protect life. That oath did not end just because we fell through time. Now let us finish this fight together." The Phantom fired again and the battle raged on. The ghost ship had revealed itself. The myth had become real. But the hardest part of the fight was still ahead. The Devourer Queen ship was coming. and nothing in any timeline had prepared them for what that would bring. The battle continued for hours. The Phantom fought alongside the Coalition fleet, its temporal weapons carving through devourer formations. Ships that had been on the verge of destruction found themselves protected by impossible shields that appeared from nowhere. Damaged vessels received targeting data that guided their shots with perfect accuracy. Commander Vector coordinated his forces with the Phantom's movements. It was like fighting alongside a ghost that could predict the future. Every time he thought a position would be overrun, the Phantom was there. Every time the enemy seemed to gain an advantage, temporal distortions disrupted their formation. But he could see the cost. The Phantom's shields flickered more frequently. Hull breaches opened along its flanks. The ship's phase shifting became erratic, sometimes solidifying at the worst moments, making it vulnerable to enemy fire. Whatever power kept it existing across multiple timelines was failing. The ghost ship was becoming more real, more solid, and therefore more mortal. Dr. Seleni worked frantically from her research station. She had established a secure channel to the Phantom and was downloading everything she could. The ship's logs, its crew records, 500 years of history that existed outside normal space. She needed to preserve this. If the Phantom did not survive, at least their story would. As she read through the logs, tears flowed freely. The crew's sacrifice was beyond anything she imagined. They knew within weeks of their accident what had happened to them. They knew they could never go home. Captain Santos had given her crew a choice. They could try to force their way back to normal time, possibly destroying themselves in the process. Or they could accept their fate and use their condition to protect the galaxy. The vote was unanimous. All 300 crew members chose duty over survival. They chose to become guardians that the galaxy would never know about. For 500 years of objective time, they sailed through probability storms. For them, it was only weeks. Weeks of non-stop fighting, watching civilizations rise and fall, preventing catastrophes that would have ended billions of lives. They had stopped wars before they started. They had deflected asteroids that would have destroyed worlds. They had sabotaged invasion fleets and disabled weapons that would have torn reality itself. All without recognition, all without thanks. Because the moment anyone knew they existed, the timeline would change, and their ability to help would be compromised. But staying hidden meant staying outside time. And time, even when you existed outside it, took its toll. The crew was aging in ways that normal biology could not explain, their bodies sustained by temporal energy, but their minds and spirits wearing thin. They were dying slowly, stretched too thin across too many moments. Seleni read one personal log from a young engineer named Marcus Chen. He wrote about missing his family, about wondering if they even remembered him. He wrote about the strange dreams he had of lives he might have lived if the test flight had succeeded. He wrote about the pride he felt every time they saved a world, even though no one would ever know. The final entry in his log was simple. If anyone finds this, know that we did not regret our choice. We were honored to serve. Tell our families we loved them. Tell the galaxy that humanity never gave up. Aboard the Phantom, Captain Santos walked through corridors that existed in multiple time periods at once. She saw her crew at their stations, young and old, simultaneously. Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka at navigation, her hands moving across controls that were both ancient and brand new. Commander James Rodriguez in engineering, fighting to keep systems online that should have failed centuries ago. She stopped at the medical bay. Dr. Sarah Kim looked up from her work. The doctor's face showed the strain of 500 years compressed into weeks. How many more can we take? Santos asked quietly. How much longer can we hold together? Dr. Kim checked her medical readouts. Not long, Captain. The temporal field that sustains us is breaking down. Our bodies are trying to exist in too many moments. Some crew members are experiencing memory fragmentation. They remember things that happened and things that might have happened with equal clarity. We are losing ourselves to the timeline. Santos nodded slowly. She felt it too. The weight of 500 years pressing down on her. The memories of countless battles blending together until she could not remember which timeline she was actually in. Sometimes she saw her crew as they were during training. Sometimes she saw them as they would be if they had retired peacefully. Sometimes she saw their graves on Earth, honored heroes who died in service. A proximity alarm shattered her thoughts. New contacts emerging from FTL, big ones. The tactical display showed something that made her blood run cold. The Devourer Queen ship had arrived. The Queen ship was not a vessel, it was a world. Organic matter the size of a moon pulsing with the collective consciousness of billions of absorbed beings. It emerged from faster-than-light travel like a nightmare taking physical form. Smaller, Devourer vessels swarmed around it like parasites around a host. Commander Vector watched the sensor readings with growing horror. The Queen ship began consuming Tarvos Prime's atmosphere from orbit. Massive tendrils extended down toward the planet's surface, drawing up air and water and life itself. The planet was being eaten alive. The Coalition fleet opened fire on the Queen ship. Weapons that could destroy battleships barely scratched its surface. The organic hull absorbed energy and grew stronger. It was feeding on their attacks, becoming more powerful with each shot. This was how the Devourers conquered galaxies. They were unstoppable. Santos stood on her bridge, looking at the impossible enemy. She had seen this moment across multiple timelines. She knew what happened next in every possibility. The Coalition lost. The Queen ship consumed Tarvos Prime. The Devourers continued their expansion. Within a generation, the galaxy fell. Unless someone changed the equation. She looked at her crew, her family, these people who had sacrificed everything for a galaxy that did not know they existed. They were dying anyway. The temporal strain was killing them. They had weeks at most before they simply ceased to be, scattered across too many moments in time. But they could choose how they died. They could choose to matter. Santos made her decision. She opened a channel to Commander Vector. Commander, we have analyzed the Queen ship across multiple timelines. There is only one way to destroy it. A temporal collapse. We overload our quantum drive and create a probability cascade that erases the Queen ship from all timelines simultaneously. Vector understood immediately. What about your ship? Your crew? The question hung in the air. Santos smiled sadly. We will be consumed in the collapse. The Phantom will cease to exist across all moments in time. We will be erased as thoroughly as the Queen ship, but the galaxy will survive. There must be another way, Vector protested. You have fought for 500 years. You deserve to rest, to go home. Santos shook her head gently. We have no home to return to, Commander. Our time ended 5 centuries ago, but we can ensure that future generations have a home. That is enough for us. Santos turned to her crew. 300 faces looked back at her. They had heard the plan. They knew what it meant. And to her eternal pride, every single one of them nodded. They were ready. The ghost ship would become legend one final time, and this time the legend would save the galaxy. Captain Santos moved through her ship one final time. She touched the walls that had been her home for 500 years. She felt the hum of the quantum drive, the heartbeat of the vessel that had carried them through impossible journeys. The Phantom was alive in ways that defied explanation, and soon it would die. Her crew prepared for the final mission. Each person worked with quiet determination. No one panicked. No one questioned the decision. They had voted again just to be certain. The result was the same as it had been 500 years ago. Unanimous. They would give everything to protect the galaxy they loved. Dr. Seleni received a message directly from Captain Santos. The transmission was filled with data, complete records of the Phantom's journey, technical specifications, personal logs from every crew member, the history of humanity's greatest sacrifice preserved for future generations. Santos's voice came through clearly. Doctor, we are sending you everything. Our journey, our discoveries, our mistakes and triumphs. Please share this with the galaxy. Let them know what we did, not for glory or recognition, but so they understand what humanity stood for. We believed that life was worth protecting. We believed that sacrifice meant something. We believed in hope even when hope seemed impossible. Seleni's hand shook as she saved the files. I will tell them, Captain. I promise. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. The galaxy will know what you did for us. They will remember, Santos smiled. Thank you. That is all we ask. Take care of them, Doctor. Take care of our descendants. They are humanity's future now. The transmission ended. Selene sat in silence, tears streaming down her face. She had discovered the truth about the Phantom only to watch it die. Commander Vector ordered the Coalition fleet to fall back. He wanted to protest the Phantom's plan. He wanted to find another way. But he knew there was no alternative. The Queen ship would destroy everything if left unchecked. The Phantom's sacrifice was the only path to victory, and that knowledge made him sick. On Tarvos Prime, Elena and the others who refused to evacuate watched the sky. They could see the Queen ship now, a dark mass that blocked out the stars. They could feel the planet dying as the Devourers consumed its atmosphere. This was the end. Unless the impossible happened. Unless the ghost ship truly could save them. Elena closed her eyes and spoke to her ancestors. My grandmother told me you would come. She said humanity never abandoned its children. She was right. Thank you for watching over us. Thank you for everything you sacrificed. Her voice broke. We will remember you. I promise we will remember. Aboard the Phantom, the crew gathered in the main assembly hall. Santos stood before them, looking at faces she had known for what felt like both weeks and centuries. She had led these people through impossible situations. She had asked them to give up everything, and they had never faltered. I do not have adequate words for what you mean to me, Santos began. Her voice was steady despite the emotion behind it. You are the finest crew any captain could ask for. You sacrificed your lives, your futures, your very existence in normal time. And you did it without hesitation. You did it because it was right. She looked at each face. Lieutenant Tanaka, who navigated them through probability storms. Commander Rodriguez, who kept the impossible engines running. Dr. Kim, who kept them alive against all odds. 300 souls who became legends without ever seeking fame. We will not be remembered as individuals, Santos continued. We will become myths, stories told to children, legends that people half believe. But our actions will echo through time. Every life we saved will continue. Every world we protected will flourish. Every species we shielded will grow and explore and create. That is our legacy. That is immortality. The crew stood silent. Then slowly they began to applaud. It started with one person, then another, until the entire hall erupted in sound. They were not applauding Santos. They were applauding each other. They were celebrating their choice. They were honoring their sacrifice. All hands to stations, Santos ordered. Let us show this queen what happens when it threatens our galaxy. Let us remind the universe why humanity earned its place among the stars. Let us make this final stand count. The crew dispersed to their positions. Systems powered up to maximum. The quantum drive began its overload sequence. Temporal energy flooded through the ship's systems. The Phantom started to glow with light that should not exist. It was preparing to die, and in dying to save everything. The Phantom accelerated toward the Queen ship. It phased through normal space, existing in multiple timelines simultaneously. The Devourers sensed something wrong. The hive mind tried to understand what was happening. Their collective consciousness recognized the threat too late. Santos sat in her command chair, watching the Queen ship grow larger on her view screen. She thought about Earth. She thought about the home she left 500 years ago. She wondered if anyone still remembered the blue planet where humanity began. She hoped they did. She hoped the galaxy would keep that memory alive. She thought about her crew's families. Parents who never knew what happened to their children. Siblings who wondered if their loved ones suffered. Partners who waited for a return that never came. Santos hoped they found peace. She hoped they knew somehow that their family members died as heroes. The Phantom reached the Queen ship's outer membrane. Smaller Devourer vessels tried to intercept, but the ghost ship phased through them like they did not exist. Nothing could stop what came next. The quantum drive reached critical mass. Temporal energy built to levels that would tear reality apart. Santos opened one final channel to Commander Vector. Tell them we were honored to serve. Tell them humanity's greatest strength was not our weapons or our technology. It was our unwillingness to abandon those who needed help. Tell them that we loved them, all of them, every species and every world, and tell them to keep the stars safe for us. We will, Captain, Vector replied, his voice breaking. We will remember. The galaxy will remember. Your sacrifice will never be forgotten. Santos nodded. That is all we need. Goodbye, Commander. Take care of our galaxy. She closed the channel and looked at her crew one last time. They were ready. They were unafraid. They were humanity at its finest. It has been my honor to serve with you, Santos said quietly. I would not change a single moment. I would make the same choice 1,000 times. You are my family. You are my pride. You are everything that is good about humanity. The crew smiled. Some cried. Some laughed. They held each other's hands. They stood together, united in purpose and sacrifice. The quantum drive reached the breaking point. Reality began to fracture. Time started to collapse. The Phantom plunged into the heart of the Queen ship. And for one brilliant, impossible moment, it existed everywhere and everyone simultaneously. The ghost ship became the most real thing in the universe. And then it detonated, erasing itself and the Queen ship from every timeline that ever was or ever would be. The explosion was unlike anything in recorded history. It was not fire or energy or matter. It was the collapse of probability itself. Space and time folded inward, creating a cascade that rippled backward and forward through every moment the Queen ship had existed or would exist. The Queen ship simply stopped being. Not destroyed, not killed, erased. Every moment it had existed across all timelines vanished. The Devourer hive mind screamed in confusion as its central intelligence disappeared. Billions of connected consciousnesses suddenly found themselves alone, disconnected, unable to function. The smaller Devourer vessels scattered. Without the Queen to direct them, they were lost. They fled into deep space, running from something they could not understand. The Coalition fleet pursued, destroying what they could, but most escaped. It did not matter. Without their Queen, the Devourers were no longer a threat. They would never coordinate again. Where the Phantom had been, there was now nothing. Not even debris. The ship had erased itself so completely that it was as if it never existed. Commander Vector stared at the empty space on his view screen. Tears ran down his face. He had watched heroes die. He had lost friends to war. But this felt different. This felt like the universe itself had lost something precious. The Tarvo system fell silent. The battle was over. The Coalition had won, but the victory tasted bitter. Thousands of ships had been destroyed. Millions had died. And the greatest sacrifice of all had come from people who were supposed to be dead for 500 years. On Tarvos Prime, Elena stood with her fellow survivors. The atmosphere was breathable again. The planet would heal. But the sky looked emptier now. The ghost ship that saved them was gone. She raised her hand to the stars in a gesture of farewell. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for keeping your promise." Dr. Seleni worked through the night cataloging the data the Phantom had sent. The files were enormous, 500 years of logs and records, technical specifications that would advance science by decades, personal stories that would break hearts and inspire courage. She would spend years studying this material. The galaxy would spend centuries learning from it. She found a message addressed specifically to her. Captain Santos had recorded it just before the final mission. "Dr. Seleni, you gave us something precious in our final hours. You gave us the knowledge that we would be remembered, that our sacrifice would mean something, that the galaxy would know what we did. For that you have our eternal gratitude. Use this information wisely. Teach the galaxy what humanity stood for, and never stop believing in the impossible." The Galactic Council met an emergency session. Ambassador Krell, who had dismissed the Ghost Fleet as superstition, stood before them with a very different message. He had seen the battle recordings. He had read Seleni's initial report. He spoke with the weight of someone who had been proven spectacularly wrong. The Phantom was real, Krell announced to the assembled representatives. Humanity's greatest ship sacrificed itself to save us. They protected this galaxy for 500 years without recognition or thanks. They asked for nothing in return. They simply believed that life was worth protecting. We owe them a debt that can never be repaid. The council debated for weeks. How do you honor heroes who no longer existed? How do you remember a ship that had been erased from time? Finally, they reached a decision. A memorial would be built at the exact coordinates where the Phantom made its final stand, a monument to sacrifice, a reminder of what true heroism meant. 50 years passed. The memorial grew into something grander than anyone imagined. It was not just a statue or a plaque. It was a living museum, a center of learning, a place where beings from across the galaxy came to understand humanity's legacy. The Phantom's crew members were honored individually. 300 faces carved in stone, each with their name and story. Children learned about Lieutenant Tanaka's navigation genius. Engineers studied Commander Rodriguez's impossible repairs. Medical students read Dr. Kim's notes on temporal biology. The crew became legends, but they were remembered as people first. Dr. Celine, now elderly and respected, gave tours to young students. She told them about the day she decoded the logs. She showed them the technical data. She read them passages from personal journals. She made sure they understood that these were not mythical figures. They were real people who made an impossible choice. Humanity's descendants scattered across hundreds of worlds, united in a way they had not since Earth's abandonment. They worked together to rebuild their cultural heritage. Using the Phantom's databases, they recovered lost art, music, literature, and history. Earth became a goal again. A dream. Someday they would return to the blue planet and make it live once more. Commander Vector, retired and honored, visited the memorial every year on the anniversary of the battle. He would stand before Captain Santos's statue and speak to her as if she could hear. "We kept your galaxy safe," he would say. "We learned from your example. We try to be worthy of your sacrifice. Thank you for everything." One year, an unusual event occurred at the memorial. Sensor readings detected something impossible. Brief temporal fluctuations, energy signatures that matched the Phantom's unique profile. Scientists investigated but found nothing. The readings vanished as quickly as they appeared, but those present that day swore they saw something. A shimmer in space, a sense of presence, the feeling that they were not alone. Some claimed they heard a voice carried on the solar wind. Others said they felt a warmth, like the embrace of a guardian who never truly left. Celine, investigating the phenomenon with her remaining energy, discovered one final message hidden in the quantum fluctuations. It was damaged, fragmented, but readable. We watched still, not as we were, but as we chose to be. A whisper in the probability wake, an echo of protection. "Keep the stars safe. We are with you." She shared this finding with few people. Most dismissed it as sensor noise or wishful thinking, but Celine knew better. She had spent decades studying the Phantom's temporal technology. She understood that things which existed outside normal time did not die the way ordinary things died. They transformed. They persisted. They echoed. Perhaps the Phantom had not truly been erased. Perhaps it had simply returned to the probability wake where it lived for 500 years. Perhaps its crew, scattered across multiple timelines, still watched over the galaxy they loved. No longer as a ship, no longer as individuals, but as something more. A presence, a promise, a hope. Stories began circulating among frontier explorers, ships that encountered impossible dangers and were saved by mysterious interventions, colonies that should have failed but survived against all odds, disasters averted by coincidences too convenient to be random. The galaxy attributed these events to luck, but a few wondered if something else was at work. The Ghost Fleet became legend again, not as a myth to frighten children, but as a story to inspire hope. Parents told their young ones about the brave crew that sacrificed everything. Children grew up believing that heroes existed, that sacrifice mattered, that even when things seemed impossible, someone was watching over them. Elena, ancient now and near the end of her life, sat on Tarvos Prime watching the sunset. She thought about the day the Phantom arrived. She thought about her grandmother's stories that turned out to be true. She thought about the promise humanity made to the galaxy, to protect, to sacrifice, to never abandon those who needed help. As darkness fell, Elena saw something in the sky, a brief shimmer among the stars, a flicker of light that should not be there. She smiled, knowing no one would believe her. It did not matter. She knew what she saw. She knew who was still watching. "Thank you," she whispered one final time. "Thank you for never leaving us." The shimmer brightened for just a moment as if acknowledging her words. Then it faded into the eternal night, waiting for the next time it would be needed. The galaxy continued its endless dance. Species rose and fell. Civilizations explored and discovered. Wars erupted and were resolved. Through it all, the memory of the Phantom endured, not as history, not as mythology, but as truth, as inspiration, as proof that even the smallest sacrifice could change everything. Humanity's descendants never forgot. They carried the story forward, generation after generation. They taught their children about Captain Santos and her crew. They explained what it meant to put others before yourself. They showed them that true heroism was not about glory or recognition. It was about doing what was right even when no one would ever know. At the memorial, carved in stone beneath the image of the Phantom, were the final words Captain Santos transmitted before the temporal collapse. Future generations would read them and understand what humanity stood for, what they died for, what they would always protect. The inscription read simply, "We were honored to serve. Keep the stars safe for us." The legend was real. The myth was truth. And somewhere in the spaces between moments, between possibilities and probabilities, the ghost ship sailed on. Watching, waiting, protecting, forever.